Hey everybody, thank you for coming. Thank you for coming to the speaker series. Would like to introduce to you, some of you know them, some of you do not. It seems like you have had the pleasure of meeting so many people though, Rachel. So yeah, Rachel Ashley, sorcerer at Nickelodeon currently, was previously at Riot, and Twitch and artist and streamer and Behance streamer extraordinaire, Rachel Ashley. So welcome. Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here, and I hope that I can offer something that's useful, that's not something that you've heard a million times. Yeah, so I'm excited. Do you want me to kind of like talk about myself?
Yeah, kick us off. Like, tell us a little bit about your journey, where you came from, what you love to do, what gets you excited in the morning, like what you love about everything. Yeah, just like tell us the story of Rachel.
Ooh, sure. Okay. My story is kind of long, so I'll try to shorten it. But like many of you, I wanted to be an artist originally. So I did go to school for animation at CSUN. Hopefully, I have some CSUN people in here. Woohoo. And honestly, while I was in college, that was where I was like, oh, animating, gross, not my favorite. Did not like, we were talking about it, takes forever. It's a lot of drawing, wasn't my thing. But I still love like drawing in general. I'm still definitely an artist. And I was like, I got to get into an animation studio, applied to Nickelodeon. Didn't get the internship the first time I applied, for the record, guys. You got to apply multiple times. I was rejected the first time. The second time I applied for a different internship within Nickelodeon, I applied for like marketing, and I did get that, thankfully. I think it was just like luck at that point, but I did get into the studio. It was the international marketing internship. And then I was like, okay, I still want to be an artist, but I mean, as you many of you know, it's really hard to get in. So I was like, okay, I just need to stay at the studio. And I ended up getting a job as a coordinator in the research department, doing focus groups with kids, which was really, really fun. But that contract ended, and then I was like, oh my gosh, okay, I still need to stay in the studio. So like, what do I do? And then I randomly ended up in the market or the recruiting department, like I am now, and ended up really liking it because I felt like I could empathize with you guys, the people who were applying. I was like, okay, I know what you're going through. It was just, I don't know, great department. I love my boss, Camille. But then I was still like, I want to be on a production team. I still kind of want to be an artist. And so I left to be a production assistant on Star Trek Prodigy, which is also at Nickelodeon. And I did that for a while. And honestly, like, didn't love the production side of it. Like, I'm really glad that I tested it out. But I was like, you know what? I kind of miss recruiting. I think I might want to be in recruiting. And so I left Nickelodeon to go work at Riot Games in their recruiting department. I recruited like game designers and narrative people and I don't know, a bunch of different game design roles. And then I was like, you know what? I miss Nickelodeon. I miss where I grew up in the animation industry. And my boss had reached out to me and she was like, we really want you back. Like, we think you belong here. And I was like, you know what? I could excel in the animation industry. So I am back at Nickelodeon. It's been like 6 months now, but yes, I'm back as a sorcerer. Um, yeah, that was like a very, very lengthy description.
But it seems like a lot of your early relationships, you maintain those, and like those paid off. It seems like if you were doing a great job as an intern and people really liked you, like you had made that connection, even though like you were exploring other things at the same time.
Yeah. And I think the key was that one, I was kind of willing to do anything. Like, I was willing to work in like any department to just stay at the studio. And two, I was like always telling people what I wanted and I like advocated for myself. And so I hope that's something that you guys will do is like tell people what you want, like know your worth. Like, when I was a production assistant, I was like, like production is one thing, but like I felt like I was not making enough money for like the experience that I had. And that's part of the reason why I left. I was like, you know what? There's bigger things for me out there, and I ended up leaving. So keep that in mind as you're navigating your career.
Interesting. Can you tell us a little bit about how, how you decided to step up and be an advocate for yourself, and also how you found like how you found, or did you have a feeling that recruiting was going to be a little bit better? Did you have the feeling about production, or do you have to like test out a whole bunch of things before you really found what you go towards or what you liked?
I definitely had to, test it out a little bit because obviously I did work in a couple different departments. Um, but I think it was kind of like, okay, I know what I'm good at this point. And I still had like the artistic thing in mind, but at a certain point, I don't remember like which executive this was, but there's one executive at Nickelodeon that was very high up. He was like maybe like the VP of production or something. And he left to become a book illustrator. And I was like, whoa, like he did this, sort of like corporate production role, and then he still was an artist on the side. So I had this like realization, like, oh my God, I can do multiple things. Like I can do my art on the side and then go to work and make money and be comfortable in my day-to-day life. So I just felt like recruiting was a really good spot because I'm good at it and I like want to advocate for you guys. Like I want to be here for you. Like because like I said before, I've been through what you guys are going through now, or hopefully a lot of you have a job, but if not, like I know what you're going through now. And that kind of, I don't know, really pushes me to excel in my job that I have now.
Is that what gets you up in the mornings, like being excited about like offering opportunity, meeting artists, etc.?
Yes, yes. And just being like, it's okay, like it's gonna be okay, you're gonna be fine. And if someone is like not getting paid enough, I'm like, you better ask for more money. Like I wanna keep the conversation open and not feel like candidates are like in the dark. I want them, I don't know, to just know what's going on, basically.
Give like a peek into the world, because sometimes like when you send in your portfolio, you apply to a job, it kind of seems like a black box sometimes. Like,
Mm-hmm.
is somebody looking at my work? What does this look like? What's
Yeah.
the process? Am I
Mm-hmm.
gonna hear back?
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
It's rough. What sparks your interest? Like when you're looking at a portfolio. Well, actually, let's go back. What's the day-to-day life of your role? Like, are you looking at portfolios a day? Are you talking to artists? Are you like hunting Instagram actively for new talent? Like, what is the day-to-day of what you do just look like?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I can clarify the role too, because I think a lot of people just don't know what a sorcerer is. So, like, my job specifically is to like chat with the hiring teams, chat with the recruiters, and they'll say, like, hey, we're having a hard time finding candidates for this role, or like this role is coming up, and we really want like a broad range of candidates to look at. And so I'll go out into the world, the internet, and I'll go on LinkedIn and Instagram and ArtStation and pages like that to find people. Usually I'm looking for like a specific style. Like I
Hmm.
think the big one right now is like Star Trek. So I'm looking for, like environment designers for Star Trek, and they are a very reasonably picky team with what they want in a candidate. And so it takes time to like find people in ArtStation, send it to them, get some feedback, source some more people. Um, but yeah, let me think like more general kind of day to day. We do meet with each show on like a weekly or like bi-weekly basis. And I mean, Jim has been in these meetings, so he knows what it's like. But we'll just be like, okay, what are your current needs? They tell us, we're like, okay, great, we have some candidates for you already. Or like, oh, Rachel can go out, find some more external candidates, and she'll send them to you like next week. And yeah, I tend to utilize LinkedIn, Instagram, ArtStation, Behance. I'm trying to think if there's any others. What other ones do you utilize, Jim?
I use Twitter a lot. I'm a
Mm-hmm.
pretty heavy Twitter user. And personally, like I'll put out a call, like if we're looking for a storyboard artist, or when Big Nate was crewing up, I'll put out a call and be like, hey, we're crewing up a new show, looking for experienced storyboard artists. It's in King Julian meets Teen Titans Go timing, with some more cinematic sensibilities of horror movies. Send me your stuff, and then we'll go through all those portfolios, like every single portfolio that gets sent to me over Twitter. And then and we'll also be reaching out to friends and ask like, hey, do you know who's available? Is there anybody that you have an interest that's available?
Mm-hmm.
Um, so like, because we tend to do a lot of specific targeted hiring, and at at checkpoints, not as much as like you do overall. On our side, it's a more proactive sourcing experience. But I'm always like following new artists on Twitter or Instagram if I see somebody that's like, oh, cool, their drawings are really cool.
Yeah.
LinkedIn,
That's the best part, right?
TikTok these days too. Like people are post storyboards.
I need to utilize TikTok. I still don't have it because I'm worried about just being on it all the time, but I'll like go and watch TikTok videos on YouTube anyways. So I'm just like, at
Mm-hmm.
this point, I should probably just download it. But yeah, I've heard that that can be a really great way to find people too.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. The weird the app like yells at you as soon as you open up. Like as soon as you open it up, there's something playing. There's some audio playing. It's like, oh yeah, I need to like mute real
Oh,
quick. But
oh
yeah.
my gosh.
What so when you're cruising through stuff, when you're cruising through like Instagram or LinkedIn or Behance or any of that stuff, you said that you have a targeted goal in mind most of the time, like you're hunting for Star Trek or specific. What like grabs your attention? You're like, oh, interesting. Let me dig into this person a little bit more.
I would say I'll talk about stories since I would assume a lot of you are story artists. Like when I'm sourcing storyboard artists for track, a lot of story artists will post some panels on Instagram. And at that point, I'm going to be looking for like action panels. So if I see someone with like, I don't know, a character that's in movement, I'm like, oh, okay, this could be the right track. And I'll go to their page, I'll look through a bunch of their posts. Which that being said, you guys, Instagram is a great place to post your work. I understand that it can be kind of tricky to like know what a recruiter would want to see on Instagram because like you want to post like personal stuff there too, like personal drawings or just like random stuff. So if I'm flipping through, I'm gonna find the ones that are specific to the style I'm looking for, but it is really nice when like all your storyboards are like all in one place and I can see it and it's all pretty. But I understand if you post other stuff too. So yeah, I think I don't know. I mean, honestly, I'm looking through like hundreds and hundreds of portfolios, and even if something is like not the right style that I'm looking for, but I really like it, I'll save it in a little Instagram folder that says like maybe baby shark, or like I'll be
Huh,
like,
okay.
like something to consider for the future, or if I know there's like some unannounced project that they haven't like determined the style of yet, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna put this person forward because I just think their stuff is really cool.
Mhm. Do you source for development as well too?
Yeah,
Okay, cool.
that's really fun. Yeah.
Yeah, what's that like?
It's usually like they'll say, "Hey, like we have, this writer on board or like the showrunner with this idea." They'll kind of pitch the idea to us. Sometimes they'll show us the actual deck that the person used to pitch to them. And they'll say, "We think maybe we want to go for this style, but we're not sure." Like they're like, "Okay, like maybe we want to go for like the Spider-Verse look, or maybe we want to go for like Powerpuff Girls. We're not sure." And I say, "Okay, like we're gonna go out and we're gonna find some people." And then we just like throw a bunch of artists at them, and then they kind
Mm.
of narrow it down from there. And then it gets like more and more specialized. And from that point, they'll usually pick like one or two people to like freelance for a few weeks to test out the style. Um, and yeah, it's just like a lot of like narrowing it down when they don't really know what they're looking for.
Mhm, mhm. You're kind of just showing here's a buffet, here's a giant, here are
Yeah.
all these menu items and like what interests you, what looks good
Yes.
today.
Yeah, exactly.
Interesting. Interesting. Yeah. So the good question, are there any like hashtags or anything that you specifically look for when you're looking for story artists?
Oh, I mean, if you're gonna utilize hashtags, obviously use story artist. I would say like honestly, I don't for like the more general roles like that, I don't look at like hashtags specifically. I What I do more is like I'll find an artist that I like and then I'll check the people that they're following, or I'll
Mm.
even message them and I'll say like, "Hey, like if you have any friends that like do a similar style to you, like feel free to send them my way." And if you guys follow my sourcing Instagram, sometimes I'll be like, "Send me your favorite artist," and people can submit it, and I find people that way. However, on like ArtStation, I do search for specific terms, especially for like really, I don't know, specific like texturing roles or like lighting artists. So basically, if you want to use hashtags, just use like the job title, like texture artist, look
or
development
storyboard
artist,
artist, or yeah,
storyboard artist.
very
Yeah,
cool.
stuff like that.
That's real interesting. Well, how when you're looking for, like, let's say you're sourcing for story artists for Star Trek Prodigy, how long, and this is kind of a brutal question, but
Mhm.
how long are you looking at an artist's work before you say no or maybe?
Oh, I mean, it's got to be just like a few seconds, right?
Okay.
Like I'll just be scrolling through. If I see something that catches my eye, I'll click on it. I'll scroll through their portfolio for a few seconds. But at that point, it's kind of like if I like them, I gotta just put it in the hands of the hiring manager and be like, what do you think of this person?
Mhm.
Sometimes I will like reach out right away just to say, like, hey, are you available? I'm gonna put you forward. Um, but yeah, I was just thinking about the hashtag thing. I want, because I know there's like hashtag portfolio day, and I will look at that one sometimes. I would love to create one for like, I don't know, general animation, like I'm available now. Maybe there is one that exists already. If there's one that exists,
Mhm.
someone tell me. But like I would love to track everyone that I've looked at through a hashtag. Does one exist, guys? Is there like a I'm available animation industry? That one's way too long, but something similar.
Mhm. I know some people
Anyways.
like on Twitter put like, like Jim Mortensen at available for work in their username.
Yeah, see that I should do something like that. Like you could tag me in your stuff or something if you're available. I don't mind the spam as long as it's
Mhm.
not like, I don't know, like inbox spam gets a little iffy, but if you're just tagging me and stuff, not a big deal.
Gotcha. Hashtag open for work. Somebody or mstag
Yeah. The only thing
recommended.
is
This is a
like
good one.
I love that one, but like that's not animation industry specific, right?
Mm.
So like how do we, because like Instagram is crazy. There's so many people on it.
Yeah.
How do we make it more
It seems
specific?
like it's a numbers game too. Like the more
Yeah.
information that you put out there and the more stuff that you use, the bigger. Like it may feel. I remember when I was coming up and posting stuff online, and it always felt like I was bothering the world by like posting
Oh,
drawings and like posting hashtags and like, am I talking too much or whatever? But like
oh.
it really is like a numbers game.
Yeah, it is. It really is. It's like sometimes I'll just open Instagram and like the first post I see, I'm like, wow, this is amazing. And I'll like put them forward for a show. It's like
Mhm.
timing and putting yourself out there.
How many portfolios do you look at in a day?
Oh gosh. I mean, it varies day to day. I would say when I'm like actively looking, like 50 to 100, but then when it's like for like the avatar character design role, I went through like all 1,500 applications. So I think I
Whew.
was looking at probably like 300 or 400 of those a day, maybe more.
Whew.
Um, so yeah, it varies. And also like it's just there's so many places where they're coming from. Like I'll get them in my inbox, I'll get them on my LinkedIn, I'll get them on my Instagram, and then I'll get people like calling me too. So um yeah, I don't know, it's hard to track.
That's crazy. So that's a lot. It sounds pretty overwhelming too for a sorcerer and a recruiter.
It can be. Yeah. I am right now, since I've been in this role for like 6 months now, I'm trying to figure out the best way to organize it because there have been situations where I've like messaged someone that I really liked and we've chatted. And then like a week later, I reach out to them on Instagram, forgetting that we already had a conversation, which is so
Mhm.
horrible of me. I'm so sorry if I did that to you, but it's just because I get like so excited about your work and I like want to talk to you. And so I need to find the best way to like combine all of those platforms into one so I can track you guys best.
Mhm.
But my intentions are good, I swear.
I mean, so you really care about those relationships too. Like it's
Yeah,
super important to be doing that, right?
yeah,
And
definitely.
but you are dealing with so much that it's hard to just remember everything. I mean, we
Yeah.
are we are humans with limited brains and
Yes.
limited mental capacity. Somebody just asked too, is this meeting going to be recorded? Yeah, this meeting is going to be recorded, and we will, or it's being recorded right now, and we're going to post it onto the YouTube after this, probably by the end of the day or so.
Yay.
Um, so you've helped like a lot of people break in and a lot of people secure their first role. Do you have any like cool stories of, or you like, you built a relationship where you're like, I saw this person on this, and we started talking and they seemed really awesome, and I helped them break in.
Oh, I mean, there's so many stories like that. I would say a lot of the time it's like I push really hard for someone to get like a production assistant or EA role because I'm just like, you are amazing. You just need to be like in the studio. I just need to get you here. And then I'm like, I know once you're in here, you're going to do amazing. And that's happened where like when I was a recruiting assistant, I really focused on those assistant roles. That was a big part of my job.
Mm.
And so a lot of the people that I put in then are like now becoming artists. And I'm like, oh my God, like that's the person that I got in here. And I'm terrible with names. Like I want to think of specific people, but it's tough. This one wasn't directly related to me, but I do know someone who was going to school for architecture and they were like, oh, I don't really like this. I want to be an artist. And so they dropped out of school and they spent their student loans on classes at Brainstorm and they took classes nonstop for like a year and a half to 2 years and then immediately got like a lead character design role at Riot. So it can happen. Like he was not like an assistant. He like just put in the work in school and then got a job right away.
Oof, the
Yeah.
dream.
Yeah.
That did not personally happen for me. It took me 5 years of like working at small studios and testing and whatnot, like to break into the industry.
It can be such a grind. Like I know it, guys. I'm sure a lot of you are going through that now. So stay
Mhm.
strong. You're gonna make it. If you keep pushing, if you put in the work, you will make it.
Is that I think there was a somebody asked Seinfeld like who makes it in stand-up comedy, and I think
Oh.
his answer was the people that keep doing it and keep
Mm-hmm.
trying. Does it feel like the
Mm-hmm.
same thing for animation?
Yeah, and I think I'm even more aware of that now that I'm like really on the other side of it, is I'm like you when you apply for stuff and you don't hear back, you think like, okay, I'm not good enough, like I'm not gonna make it. And especially when you're like out of school and you haven't been able to find a job for a while, you're like, oh my God, like, am I ever gonna get a job? Like, how am I gonna make money? Like it gets very stressful. But the truth is that if you keep applying, like we've probably already put your name forward for something and like you just weren't a fit or like they had someone internal that they liked, but like there's probably a show like 3 months from now that could be a perfect fit from you. And then even then it's like maybe they already had someone in mind, but like 3 months from that, there's probably like another perfect fit. So it's just like you just got to keep doing it, keep applying. Like it's the timing and it's being prepared for the opportunity when it presents itself are I think like really key points.
So it sounds like you've been looking at somebody's work for a year or 2 years before you even like are able to get them a role.
Yeah, that can happen. And it's just, so many people are graduating every year and a lot of them are amazing. And it just, I don't know, it takes time. Like, even if I'm like, oh my gosh, this person is ready right now, it's like we just might not have the right role open for them. Or, I'm like, wow, you would be amazing at Disney. Like, maybe not a fit for Nickelodeon, but you should definitely go try to get a job at Disney.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So Emily asked, how can we stand out in the recruitment process? And um, is there? I have my own kind of theory on that and a hypothesis, but what would your answer be to that?
Yeah, I would love to hear your answer too. I would say, I mean, just from like the very starting point, like make sure your resume and your website are very just like clean, organized, easy to access. Like you guys, you have no idea how many people when I was going through the avatar applicants, like their website link was broken or like I would click on it and it would be like blocked by the by like the network. And so I would have to find another way
Mm,
to access it or just like all these like little things were like I had the patience to figure it out for a lot of them, but I'm sure like other recruiters wouldn't because they just got to get through them fast. So just make sure it's functioning, make sure it's readable. With your resume, like if you're applying for something that's not necessarily like artistic related, if it's like a production assistant role, make sure the jobs that you previously worked on, you've written things that would be relevant to a production assistant role. a little trick that I like to share that you might have heard from me already is if you put like at the top of your resume a little bio that says like recent grad seeking production assistant role in the animation industry, it's possible that because you typed the word production assistant, your resume will pop up in our system because someone searched like production assistant. So just keep that in mind.
Interesting. So for me, if you don't mind jumping
Yeah.
with a personal story,
Yeah.
when I came out of SfA, I was not skilled enough to. I thought I was good enough, and I was going to move out to Los Angeles, and I was going to get like a job immediately. I was going to be hired at Pixar, because I didn't even know that Pixar wasn't based in Los Angeles at that time. Whoops, should have done that research. But for me, it took me 5 years of testing and of making storyboard sequences by myself and working. And like it was a numbers game for me, where like the people that I met in like 2006, 2007 built a little bit of a relationship, and I would like show my sequences and I would say, yeah, give some feedback and whatnot. And then kept coming back as long as they would give me feedback, and built that like low level relationship. And then when a job opened up somewhere else, they could be like, yeah, if you want to test for that job over there, yeah, go ahead and test for that job. And like, so it was 5 years of building relationships from the beginning and from the ground up, and getting a little bit of name recognition with people that were getting close, or the people that were like in the hiring process, that were like directors or storyboard artists, and just being in the mix, because my work when I started wasn't good enough to get notice from recruiters. And I wasn't skilled enough, and my work didn't stand out. And I personally don't think my work stands out now, but what stood out in the minds, from what I understand, talking to people, for what stood out in the minds of the people that were doing the hiring process, was just how many times I kept coming back and trying and doing it with a smile. But like, oh man, I'm sorry this one didn't work out. I'll keep working, and I'll keep going on the next one. So like, I wasn't artistically skilled enough to break through, but eventually, like, through perseverance and just trying to get better consistently, I started getting name recognition from people. Oh yeah, he tested on this. Oh yeah, he tested on that.
Yeah.
And then that became like the way to stand out. And then eventually, like through those 5 years, my skills got good enough to get a job.
Yeah. That I love that. And I think that's awesome because you were also showing like your willingness to improve. And I'm assuming take feedback from whoever was looking at the test that you were doing. And you were like, and you didn't, it sounds like you didn't take it negatively. Like you were like, okay, great. Like I'm taking your advice. I'm going to go work on it. I'm going to come back to you and show you how I've improved. And for people, like you said, who are just like not quite at that level, that is a really, really important point to keep in mind. And
internally, it was totally negative. Internally, it was like, oh, I hate these notes.
Oh.
But like, just, yeah, okay, no, thank you. I'll work on that. I'll work on that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think for me, in terms of like the portfolio specifically, you guys, you got to be honest with yourselves. Like you got to look at your portfolio and compare it to, whatever role or job you want, look, whatever style you're interested in, look at those portfolios of the people that have that job and say like, is my stuff at this level? If it's not, you got to work on it. Like get yourself to a point where it's like not even a question that you could be working on this show. Like if you're like, for example, let's just say Avatar. Like if your stuff is like sort of looks like Avatar, that's not going to be enough. It's got to be like on point, like clean, anatomy's on point. So like be kind to yourself, but also like give yourself some self criticism,
Mm-hmm. So speaking to the Avatar thing, just jump off of that. And there's a question in the chat. Do you think it's more important to show like a variety of styles, or is it better to focus and perfect a smaller number of skills?
So I do think knowing a variety of styles can be really important, especially when you're kind of just starting out and you're trying to get a job. I will say when I'm sourcing, like I said, I am looking for like a really specific style. And so for Avatar, it was like you had to have like Avatar style on point in your portfolio. Otherwise, the team just wasn't going to go for it because there was just so many applicants. Um, but yeah, it's tough because some shows will be very open to, or like, directors, producers, showrunners, whoever will be very open to seeing people who have a different style and they're like, okay, yeah, maybe like let's test them out. Or they'll be like, no, like they need to have this style on point. So I think just for like or not not safety reasons, but just to be safe, like have a variety of styles. What do you think, Jim? What do you think about that?
I think I don't really know how to answer that question,
Yeah.
especially for storyboard artists, because what I'm looking for is, and it's specifically, I work on shows that are comedies, that are cinematic comedies, generally with upbeat, energetic characters, and not on a show like Family Guy or American Dad or Simpsons, which are
Hmm.
extremely on model and very tight. Um, to me, when I'm looking at portfolios or even just stuff on Instagram, a lot of the time I'm looking for what you love to draw. And so if I see an Instagram feed with you know here is Timmy Turner as a Ferrari in this really goofy drawing, or I'm going to board this short little comic about my life, uh, and or like here is a mashup of what if Aang from Avatar was in the Big Nate world, um, so and our storyboard artists, specifically because we're a CG show, our storyboard artists don't have to be on model. So we're not looking for anything specific other than drawings that are somewhat in the territory of our style and that have a certain like joy of drawing or a certain joy of character. I mean, one of our storyboard artists, Ray Geiger, designed on She-Ra, which is, or like was a character designer on She-Ra, which is completely outside of the realm of Big Nate as far as
Yeah.
boards.
Hmm.
But like I saw some of their work, some of their boards on Ben 10 that my friend had shown me. It was like, oh, this person is really versatile and they can draw like this. And then, started digging into their boards and their personal work. And I was like, oh, this person really likes drawing cool stuff and like stuff that
Hmm.
could fit into. So we weren't looking for like somebody that draws like Ray does not draw like the Big Nate comic at all, but they
Hmm.
had a joy of drawing that I see in the work that we were excited to bring to the table for our show.
Hmm. That's awesome. And it's like when you draw what you love, your artwork is just naturally going to be better because you're more excited about it. You're going to put more time into it, more effort. So yeah, I think that's a really good point, especially when I feel like you're going to get 100 different responses to that question of like style, like multiple styles versus one style versus like fan art versus blah blah blah. So yeah, it's like take in a lot of advice and then decide what you want to do with it.
Yeah, which is the toughest thing because that's an internal journey of figuring out
Yeah.
who you are and what you're good at.
That once you get to a certain point in the industry too, people know what your style is and they know what you're good at. And like there's been so many instances where like a show in development will be like, we kind of want this style, and we'll say, oh, this artist does that style, they're great at that, and we'll bring them to them right away. So like
Mhm.
once you've been around for a while, you kind of get known, your style gets recognized, and you don't have to put in as much effort into like, I don't know, changing yourself to fit a mold. It's more like people will like come out and find you to be like, oh,
Mhm.
we like your style, come work for us.
But it took me 5 years to learn that I should not be applying to Family Guy or Simpsons or King of the Hill. Like I took Family Guy and King of the Hill tests, and
Hmm.
I did not do a good job. And so it took a long time for me to realize like, oh, I'm not going to be able to do this. This is not who I am. This is who I'm somebody else.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting.
It's a tough one.
Mm-hmm.
So there's an interesting question. How can people with no animation background and no degree in animation, but have a degree, get into animation? I think this person has been trying to get into internships and production assistant roles, but hasn't been able to make that breach.
Sure. So I mean, if you haven't already, I'm sure you are already aware, but you should definitely, if you want to be an artist, definitely look into Schoolism, CDA, CGMA, Brainstorm, YouTube. Like there's a million platforms where you can, I don't know, just learn the skills that you need to work in animation. If you're worried about like, oh, I don't have an animation degree, honestly, I went through intern applications for a lot of different department, and I don't remember looking at any of the colleges. Like I was just looking at resume, like the skills that they wrote down that were relevant, their cover letters, like if they showed a passion for animation and like a passion for Nickelodeon in particular, I was like, okay, great, like this candidate's great. I can't speak for other internships, but Nickelodeon in particular, like I had already graduated when I got my internship. They just required that I roll in like one community college class, and that was how I got in. Like you don't have to have a bachelor's degree. You can go to a community college and take some art classes, and that should be okay. That being said, it might be different at like Disney and Cartoon Network, but that's how Nickelodeon functions.
Interesting. So for somebody that's trying to get into that, the ground floor, into the production assistant, because I guess internship is specifically, 6 months after graduating college, or specifically like related to having a degree.
Yeah, so for production assistant in particular, like I said before, like just make sure your resume is specific to that role. Like look at what like the description for that job is like your cheat sheet for the resume. Like don't lie, but
Mhm.
like if it says like you need to organize files and like be very detail oriented, like you can be like, oh, in this job, I organized the student files for my animation class and blah blah blah. Like you can relate things that you did in school or whatever like side project you worked on to the job.
Mhm.
That being said, there are like thousands of people that can all do the same production assistant role. So it can be really hard to stand out, but I don't want you to feel like not going to a college or not studying animation will put you at a disadvantage, because I don't really think that's the case. It's more just making sure your resume is like really pretty and stands out. Make sure you connect with the recruiters and the hiring managers on LinkedIn and like send them a little message that's like, hey, I'm looking for this job. They might not respond, but like it's worth putting it out there.
Mhm. So at that point, again, it seems like a name recognition game of putting yourself out there enough times that somebody in recruiting or somebody hiring, like, oh, I recognize this name. Let me
Yeah.
look at it again.
Yeah. And if you do manage to connect with someone like me or whoever else, if you send me a message and I don't respond, it's okay to follow up and be like, hey, like, I don't know if you saw my other message, just like letting you know I'm available for work now. I'm looking for these kind of roles. Like, be really specific about what you want. Like, I'm looking for these roles. Here's my resume. And if I have time, I try to respond and say like, hey, thanks so much. Like, I don't have a job available for you right now, but like, please follow up again. So don't spam people, but like in my opinion, it's perfectly okay to follow up like every couple weeks, like once a month, once every 2 months, just to be like, hello, I still exist. I'm still
Mhm.
here.
Mhm. And smile and be as pleasant as possible, because you're like you're meeting a lot of people and it's hard to keep track. As you said before, you keep track of everybody, and like,
Yeah. And the way that people respond, so like it help with interviews for like a lot of production assistant, whatever assistant roles. And it does speak volumes the way that people respond to like a rejection email. If they are very sweet and they're like, no worries, like thanks so much for the opportunity. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna put this person forward for the next production assistant role. If they're like really like snotty and weird when they respond to me, I'm like, okay, this person doesn't respond to criticism that well or whatever. And it's not likely that I'm going to put you forward for the next role. So I know it hurts. I know rejections hurt. They're not good for anyone in any capacity, but If you can respond to it in like a pleasant way, it can speak volumes to like your character as a person.
I think even when you break in and are working in the industry, the rejection is part of it and it still continues to be a part of it.
Yeah, unfortunately, yes.
I mean, even in my position as a supervising producer, like I'm pitching shows and, you know, you pitch 50 times and I think I've gotten 2 yeses out of
Hmm.
that. And it's like, it's just constant rejection, even, even when you continue, even when
Yeah,
you're like supposedly in a position of power, whatever that
yeah.
is.
And it's like people are looking for like puzzle pieces to like fit into their puzzle. Like when I that from my experience, it's like hiring managers a lot of the time will be like, we want this specific style with this personality with this timeline. And it's like you have to like fit into the puzzle. That's not always the case, but like if you get rejected and you're like, oh, it's because of me and my personality, it's like, no, that's probably not the case. It's probably just like some weird like timeline thing.
So let's talk about ghosting and rejections, because this is
Yes.
such a hot topic and such a tough topic.
Yeah.
Uh, so it sounds like, I mean, from what we've talked about and from what I know, like it is very hard for you to manage all those relationships because it is just overwhelming. You're flooded with portfolios. You're flooded with work, flooded with messages. Um, the term ghosting gets thrown around a lot, but how should an applicant handle that, or how should an applicant like interpret that?
Yeah. So ghosting happens to all of us. Like I've been ghosted by candidates, I've been ghosted as an applicant myself, and I have also ghosted people. But I've never done it intentionally. Like I've always had good intentions. It just like stuff gets lost. Unless someone's like really creepy and weird, then maybe I did ghost you. But most of the time, it's just like I lost the email, I lost track of it. It happens. It does happen. That being said, like you guys should always feel like you can follow up with me. Like if someone follows up with me and they say like, "Hey, I messaged you like 3 weeks ago and like you said you would put my name forward, but like I never heard back." I feel so guilty. And like I kind of want you to make me feel guilty. Like I it's been like 3 weeks and I haven't heard anything. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, like I'm so sorry. Let me put you forward. However, like a lot of the times I'll try to say like, hey, I'm really interested in your work. I'd love to put you forward for the show. Can you send me your portfolio? And then they send it. And then I say, great, I'm going to put this forward. If the team is interested, I will follow up. And at that point, that's me being like, I will follow up with you if they're interested. If not, it's just not going to happen. And for me, I feel like that's the point where I can just kind of like let it go. Jim, if you have different opinions, like feel free to share. But um, just like be mindful of that language because I'm sure I've said that and some people are like, oh, well, Rachel ghosted me. Like she said she put my work forward and I never heard anything. And I'm like, I did, but the team just wasn't interested and I don't have time to necessarily like, I don't know, go through and like let you know that they weren't interested, but you can follow up and ask again.
Mhm. I yeah, it's an unfortunate causality of being human and of having limited time on the earth, where you can't you can't get everything done that you want to, and like you want to make sure that every applicant feels good and feels okay,
Yeah.
and like you get an answer to everybody, but sometimes it's just not the reality, or sometimes we make mistakes.
Yeah. If I would say it's like the different circumstances too. It's like if it was just like you message someone on LinkedIn and they never responded to you, like that's not a big deal. Like don't don't be offended by that. Like LinkedIn is like a social media app. Like I don't really think of that as ghosting. If you had an interview with the company and you never heard back, that's like totally unacceptable. Like that hurts me because I'm like, you put in the time, you interviewed, and you had really high expectations waiting for that response. And if you never heard back, oh, I'm so sorry if that's happened to you. So please, like if that has happened to you where you've actually met with the team and interviewed with them, and maybe like the team doesn't respond, like follow up with someone else, follow up with a recruiter. If the recruiter doesn't respond, follow up with like the recruiting assistant. Like find ways to
Mhm.
reach the people and let them know what happened to you. And someone will be like, oh, that's not okay. Like, we'll get you an answer right now.
Okay. And it is it seems a common theme about being ghosted too is that there's not necessarily anything to interpret from that, like, oh, I screwed up that interview, or oh, they hated me, or oh, I sent
Yeah.
not enough board samples, or my drawings were off. Like, I know we humans want to make meaning out of absolutely everything that happens, but it sounds like sometimes like there's not even any meaning to be gathered from it. It's just this one, something happened and this one didn't work out, and you never really know why.
Yeah. It could be any number of reasons. Like maybe the team really liked you and they wanted to hire you, but then like the show got put on hold because it's like not greenlit yet, or like the budget change or something like that. And then that's why, honestly, those are like some of the biggest reasons why ghosting happens is like the team will go to the recruiter and they'll say, hey, we want to hire this person, but we can't make any movement yet because we don't know about this other thing. And so we'll just kind of like wait, and then maybe we'll follow up and we'll say, hey, what's going on with that? And they'll say like the same thing. And that's how someone just kind of gets like lost in the void, is because it's like, oh, we wanted them, but like blah, blah, blah happened. And yeah, so it's unfortunate, but it does happen. There's something else I was going to say, but I forgot. So never mind.
So we're coming up at the end. So if anybody has any last minute questions, like, feel free to throw them in the chat. But I wanted to ask you a couple of fun questions. What got you interested in the animation industry? What movie, what series, what thing was like, yeah, I want to be there, I want to be in the mix?
um, I would say one of the biggest ones for me was definitely Avatar. Love Avatar. I never watched Legends of Korra, so I'm sorry for Korra people here, but I just love Avatar. And I think that got me really excited in Nickelodeon specifically. And it's funny because so I did work in the video game industry, and when I was younger, I'm not like a gamer by any means, but when I was a teenager, I played World of Warcraft. And at that point, I was like, I really like World of Warcraft style. I want to be like a game designer, or like I wanted to design like I don't even know, just like cards or something. And that's kind of why I was like, oh, maybe Riot Games could be cool. I'll go explore that. But yeah, Avatar, Studio Ghibli is big for me. What about you, Jim? I'm really curious.
Iron Giant. Iron
Oh,
Giant
so
got me
good, so good.
huge. And The Simpsons, when I was growing up, The Simpsons as a
Mhm,
kid, I thought was amazing. Um, there was a short film by Mark Osborne, who later did the Kung Fu Panda movies, called More, which I saw as like a 19-year-old, and
mhm,
like really hit me emotionally in a real sensitive place. And
mhm.
it partly helped me realize that like uh I I was an electrical engineer first, so I was on the path of like, programming and whatnot. And right around that time is when I saw that short, and I was like, oh crap, this is what I actually feel and really want to do, and that
Yeah.
engineering isn't the realm for me. It's not something that I feel that passion for. And
Wow.
these days, I get inspired by like Mob Psycho 100, or even Bluey. I don't know if you've watched any Bluey at
I
all.
haven't.
Oh my god. Oh my.
I should.
My feet, please. My fiance and I are like two childless year old adults, and Bluey makes us cry all the time. And if I could like
Oh,
create something with the fraction of the emotion of Bluey, hell yeah,
wow. I'm sold. Everyone needs to go watch Bluey.
it's very good.
Oh, some people have.
It makes me want to uh, be a better person and be a better dad if I have kids eventually.
Oh, oh, I love that.
It's so good. Was there a movie that you watched like total on repeat as a kid?
Um, uh, I'm sure that there was, but I'm blanking on it right now. Spirited Away horrified me as a child. I love it
Oh
now,
God.
but gave me nightmares for like months and months and months. Like No Face. Ooh.
Mm, mhm, mhm.
What about you? Did you watch one on repeat?
It was my sister and I watched Robin Hood all the time.
Oh, that's the Disney one.
The Disney one, yeah, the Disney one with the using the Xerox process where the sketchy lines made it to screen.
Oh,
It's pretty great.
great movie.
But we always skip past the love song when the two, like Robin Hood, Maid Marian, are singing to each other. Because right after that love song, a pox on the phony King of England, which is the song where they're making fun of Prince John, is right after that, and we just wanted to get to that song, so we're like, screw this love stuff, just fast forward, get to the funny song.
That's so funny. I think I remember doing that with Lion King too. Like there's that like romantic scene. I think we fast forwarded through it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Cool. Is there anything else that you wanted to talk about?
I think we covered a lot of things. I could talk endlessly about recruiting, but I do just want to say, hang in there, guys. It's going to be okay. You're going to get the job if you put in the work and if you keep reaching out to people. You're going to find a place in this industry. So don't stress. Take it easy on yourselves. Make sure you go outside and like take walks and like exercise. That's also good too.
Be like live the life of a person.
Yeah.
Make sure you're taking care of yourself.
Be a human. Eat food. Eat something green. Maybe not like slime. Maybe like a vegetable or something like that.
Will it help you get hired at Nickelodeon if you consume slime on an Instagram live feed?
Off the record, yes.
For the legal purposes and the safety of everybody, we must say on the record, please do not eat slime. Awesome. Well, Rachel, thank you so much for your time. This has been awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. This was great. And I mean, I didn't get to see your faces, but I know I've seen some of you on Instagram. So please, follow me. I'll follow you back if I'm not already. And
yeah, plug your socials. What's
your
yeah.
Text? So Rachel's Sources. Should I write it in the chat?
Yeah, sure. Let's do it.
Rachel's Sources. This is my sourcing Instagram. And then Rachel Ashley Art is like my fun one where I post, I don't know, me stuff.
Yeah, which is the awesome stuff because like get to see what your life is as an artist, isn't as a streamer too? Like what do you love to draw? Which is all I love looking at your stuff. It's awesome.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I haven't posted in a while, but I will be streaming at some point this week. I can't say which day. I'm sorry. I'm not organized with my streaming schedule, but I'll be streaming.
Awesome. And that's on Behance?
Yes, Behance.
Sweet. So look for that on the Rachel Ashley Art. And also make sure you follow Jim's pages. He has multiple. If you want, but I will plug that this is being recorded and this will be up on the Story for All YouTube page soon. If you want to follow the @Story Mentorship Twitter account, that is where we post all that. And there's also the Instagram account. If you just do a search for Story Mentorship, you will see this logo there, and you will recognize it. And that's where we put announcements about new speaker events that we have. Sam King is coming to do one soon, which is awesome. She's going to talk about her transition from production specifically to becoming an artist and how she made that transition. We're going to have one, it hasn't been announced yet, but with Stu Livingston, who's going to talk about motivation and self-worth as an artist. Because he had one of those tweets that went around where he wrote a handout, or he wrote like a one sheet for one of his board artists that was experiencing like self-doubt, which is awesome. And I can't say it today, but on Monday, we're going to announce a real cool special guest that I'm extremely excited for. It's somebody that I've known since art school and I have looked up to for all of my artistic journey. Oh, wow. And is it SpongeBob? It is specifically SpongeBob. Yes. Oh, gosh, I knew it. Yeah. SpongeBob's going to teach me how to do the laugh. It's going to be great. Oh, wow. You're going to have to teach all of us then. The secret, Tom Kenny told me the secret is to just warble your neck like this as you're laughing. Just go. Ah! Okay, I'll try that in the dark tonight by myself. Yeah, so that's what we got coming up. We'll have more of these. This will be on YouTube hopefully by the end of the day, as soon as Zoom's entering the recording. And thank you for your time, Rachel. Again, thank you so much. This was awesome. Thank you so much, guys. I'm going to sign off now, but lovely to see all your names on the screen, and I'll see you on Instagram. Bye. Bye.